This is Deborah Johnson for Women at Halftime, and I'm passionate about helping women use their untapped skills, resources, and talents to create their ideal work and lifestyle, making a difference in their second half.
Well, hello, Deborah Johnson here with you today with a great subject for the Women at Halftime podcast. This show today, getting back into a regular routine, is near and dear to my heart. I am big on routine. That doesn't mean I live my life like a robot or just so strict. But I'm asked often, how do you get so much stuff done? You do. I love to create and I love to finish projects. But a lot of that is because of a regular routine. And as people are starting to get back into the swing of things after such a difficult, we're coming out of, as this is released, out of a difficult last year and actually this year too. We thought things would get back more into normal, but getting back into that regular routine, I just really wanted to inspire and encourage all of you to keep moving forward. And so I always encourage you also to connect with me on social media. And I'm on all of the sites, LinkedIn, Facebook. If you look for Deborah.Johnson, you can get there at Facebook, Instagram, and all of the others, but also on my regular emailing list. I put out an article every single show that I do. It comes out every week. And I think you will enjoy. I put a lot of extra links in there, some downloads and freebies as well. So make sure that you're always on that list, getting all of the updates and all the little new things. I have a new book coming out this fall too, so you don't want to miss that. Really fun allegory. So well, let's get into this little subject. It's a great one. And again, one that I feel is very, very important really for our society today and for our world, is getting back into a regular routine. And I'm going to talk about what a regular routine is, and because when some people, when they think about that regular routine, some feel like it is boring, it's unimaginative, and it's uninteresting. But I beg to differ, and I'm a creative. A regular routine can bring freedom, and it can bring the joy of productivity if you vary your regular routine and you implement small changes. And the boundaries and the guidelines of a regular routine, along with flexibility, it has the power really to change your output and to increase your enjoyment of life and even your relationships. There's a lot of power in putting just some of those little systems in place in not only your professional life, but in your personal life. When routines are broken because of circumstances, whether those could be health circumstances, it could be a disaster, it could be relationships or financial, any other reason, it's hard to get back on track. And so let me ask a question. How many of you have missed even several days of working out? And then you find it's just so easy to just get right back to the gym or get back on track working out. Now, most find this is difficult. I do. And in the case of going through a pandemic, most were gone at least a year from a gym. Now, maybe you don't go to the gym, but I'll bet there's another routine that you have, whether it's walking, whether it's riding a bike, or it's another form of exercise. And if you miss, you get out of the regular routine of doing that and you miss a day, it's easy to miss a second day, and then it's easy to miss a third day. And the point to all of this is that adding a regular habitual activity, even very, very small routine, has the power to change your life. And I quote this often in my programs and in my speaking. Change your habits, change your life. They're very, very connected. Change your habits, change your life. I'm going to talk about how habits compound over time. Now, and I'm going to equate this with finances as well. But James Clear, in the first chapter of his Atomic Habits, which is a great book, by the way, he describes the British cycling story and how their implementation of small changes in habits, it improved their performance. In fact, they improved so much as to win the Tour de France in 2012 and other Olympic gold medals. And they were very, very last place. Well, how did they do that? Well, he describes some of the changes they made in the book. You can go and read it to find those out. But the cycles team, they started with just a 1% gain, very small. And that gain compounded over time to go from a last place team to a first place. And James Clear, he states that he sets a schedule for important things, and he never misses twice because of the hard time it is to get back onto the routine. And it might sound harsh and too regulated to some listeners, but getting back on track is much harder than staying on track. If you've been on a diet, you know that's true as well. After you take one day off, you want to take another. Easily want to be able to do that. Now, let me equate this with the principle of compound interest. I'm not a financial person, but I'm married to somebody who knows this extremely well, and I love following it. Compound interest works in the same way as compound habits. It accumulates because your interest is gained not only in the original amount, but with each passing month, the interest is calculated now on the new total. So I put a fun example. Now, if you click into the article, you'll be able to see all of this in print, but you can imagine as well. You start with $100, and then you contribute $10 a month for 30 years. Now, to be safe, we're going to figure on a 5% interest rate that can go up or down 2%. And I realize that's even currently high right now, but let's just play with me here a little bit on these numbers because it really shows that principle of compound interest. So if you're at that 5% up or down a little bit, in 30 years, you will have $5,951. Even when accounting for all of those variables and shifts in the market. That's a big gain. And it's a pretty amazing return from just an initial $100 investment. And all it costs you is giving up a couple lattes a month. And in 30 years, the value of the dollar may be less. And if you only get a 3% outcome it might be a little different as well, but it's still a pretty significant return on a regular small investment with compound interest. And you can put in your own numbers for more fun. And in the article, I put a little link to a compound calculator. It's really fun to be able to do that. And I really encourage people to do that because it's very, very powerful. But it's not only very, very powerful in finances, but in habits. Because the principle of compound habits, they multiply just like that compound interest. And so many of us, we just want that overnight success. And we don't realize that just like compound interest, success builds slowly, but solidly. You just can't quit. Now, for example, how many of you would just love to lose those 5 pounds in a week? Well, really, realistically, unless you're a hard training athlete and you can also lose a ton of water weight, that's not a really realistic goal to lose weight over the long haul and really in keeping it off. That 5 pounds in a week. But if you can just consistently just change that little 1% or change a little bit of a habit and change your lifestyle eating, that's very achievable doing over the long haul. Now, I've got some free goal setting worksheets as well. So you want to make sure that you click in onto it's on goals-for-your-life.com/goal-setting-worksheet, singular worksheet. I do have 4 worksheets available on that page. But it's goal setting worksheets. You can get that absolutely free download on that. But I talk about and I have a free download on nutritional timing and on nutrition, and as well as other goals on that page. And eating smaller portions and the right type of food at the regular times of the day, it'll end up paying off. There's a lot of science behind this. But again, you can't quit. It's just because you don't lose those 5 pounds in a week. Now, unfortunately, those foods don't include ice cream and chocolate, which I would love. Wouldn't that be great if we could just have all that we wanted of those? But when people really change their lifestyle eating, they see results. Those results happen gradually, but they happen. And you have to be more patient with yourself than anything through those results. But be consistent, very, very consistent. Now, what's encouraged me is that I've seen photos of several friends and colleagues, even across the country, that they've applied lifestyle eating and they've lost hundreds of pounds between them. And they spent the year during the shutdowns, not just sitting in front of YouTube and watching their favorite shows and shows they hadn't seen, movies, but they applied good habits of eating and discipline and even exercising, getting outside, and it paid off for them. So I really want to encourage you in that. Now, also, I want to add another little principle here is to make a new habit fun. And you'll notice if you're clicking in on the video on this, you'll see the graphic on this little game board that I put on. I've also put a free download in the article. But to make a new habit fun, and I will review all of these little points at the end because I feel like we can't even remember some of them. Oh, what did she say? What did she say? So I will end up reviewing all of those. But make it a little bit of a game for yourself. Establishing a new habit and fitting it into a regular routine, it's a secret to achieving solid results. And it doesn't have to be like boring or even like super hard. Give yourself incentives with small little wins when you achieve success for a certain number of days. And that's why I put that little game board there. And if you implement very small changes, these have to be that you set for yourself, you won't be overwhelmed and just give up. And that's the secret. It's not to give up when you don't experience overnight success. And this not only applies physically and personally, but to your business and to whether you're starting a new business, growing a business, whether you're working in some sort of office situation and trying to just do the best you can. So when you plan your day, schedule a few activities that will be a part of your regular routine. We all realize this, our work projects will change, but your regular routine will help you keep focused, sane, and at least a little more balanced. Exercise, journaling, and deep, concentrated work are part of my routine, and I encourage you to include them in yours. And I'm going to actually go into each one of these areas just briefly now, just to encourage you in all of these areas: exercise, journaling, and deep, concentrated work as part of my regular routine. So exercise first. Now, here are some ideas for new habits that will help you physically. Schedule a 20-minute walk 1 or 2 times a day outside. Now, you can do this wherever you work, even in the middle of a city. A brisk walk will burn between 70 and 100 calories. And if you ride your bike for 20 minutes, you'll burn between 140 and 207 calories. It depends on your weight. But either walking or riding a bike, it's achievable for most people. And many people are working remotely now. You can do this during a lunch break, whatever. And you can have the freedom to do that, not only for burning calories, but to be able to just release yourself a little bit mentally and taking a break. Getting outside, love that. Journaling. Spend 10 minutes every day journaling. Now, I do this in the morning, the very first thing, but many like to do this in the evening or another part of the day. But mornings are good for me because they help me focus for the day. And my journaling occurs right after I have a brief devotional reading, and I read a short passage and I write down my thoughts. And this morning routine has kept me centered for many years, no matter how busy I am. And I keep extremely busy. I'm pretty self-motivated with that. But this routine, it keeps my mind centered on the most important, because there's times you get off track. So that's journaling. I'll get back and review this again. But now let's get to deep work. I love this phrase, deep work. And turning off the notifications. That was a tough one. Turn off those notifications and make time for deep work. And I think that's a very important principle. The term became more popular when Cal Newport's book came out called Deep Work. In fact, if you've not read his So Good They Can't Ignore You, please take time to do that. He's a wonderful author. But deep work, it's a worthy read on what it is. Because life holds many distractions, from phone calls to family obligations and to work deadlines and more. But if you're a creative, especially a writer, you need time to think, focus time with no interruptions. And it's so much easier just to let those interruptions get in the way, or to go and, clean that messy desk or drawer, or check social media. And there's so many things we can do. So what he suggests is that to use some of the tools to help you turn off those distractions, put the phone away. But you have to find what will work for you to really do that deep work. And that's part of that regular routine, to fit it into your schedule. And part of my routine is that I use a timer as well. I use a 10-minute timer rule, and I set my timer for 10 minutes at a time, and especially for tasks that are not as enjoyable. But it also works for projects where I might be like stymied or stuck. So I will spend a limited amount of time, and then I'll put the project away and come back to this. I've used this a lot in cleaning my office, 10 minutes at a time. And then I set it another 10 and another 10 and another 10. But I get it done because it just gives me that focused time. And here's another principle that I use with technical tools, especially new ones, is that I make the rule to add one small thing at a time and then be really good at that. And then that diminishes the frustration and the overwhelm. So again, let's go through all three of those little items that I just mentioned. Was our exercise. Exercise is so good for you physically, for that physical release, as well as just getting the body moving, especially if you're sitting a lot. And then, of course, your journaling, and very, very important there with that journaling. And then making time for that deep work. And if no thoughts come, hey, that's okay. You don't always have to be, inventing and creating these amazing things at the same time, but give yourself the space to be able to do that. As a writer, I definitely have to do that. Give myself space to think and then to rewrite. So I'm going to talk real quick here about the end of the day routine. And to be honest, I have a hard time shutting it down at night. With a home office, and now our kids are out on their own. We're at halftime. So I have more freedom to work later with my home office. And I love it. But when our kids were younger, and when Greg and I schedule time together, I do shut it down early. But there's a routine that I usually follow as well. Many of you listening to this, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But if you've gotten out of that sort of regular routine, you might find it very helpful to get back into some sort of a routine. My dad always taught me, lay your tools out the night before. And he was a fire captain, and he also had side gigs like so many firemen do. And his side gigs were in construction and as well as running another tool business. It was his side gigs, but he loved it. But what he would do was load his truck with his tools the night before to meet the workers early the next morning. If the tools weren't ready, the workers couldn't work. And that would be a loss of both time and money. And he hated to waste either one of those. Oh, he guarded those so carefully. In fact, his parents had gone through the Depression. He had gone through part of that with them. And my father started out with nothing. I mean, he built his first little home out of scrap wood that he went over to the dump to get. So that was very important to him. And realize that these little principles, that if you put those in place, it really has that power to change your life, to change your attitude, to change your whole mental self well-being, and that you feel like, yes, I am getting these things done, or I am moving ahead. Maybe I'm not losing those 5 pounds in a week, or I'm not getting this huge project done, right on time, but I'm moving ahead. One little thing, those incremental compound interest, just like the compound interest on money, the same thing works with your habits, the compound interest. So I want to encourage you to put those principles in place, because they really will change your life. And also, if there's some other little routines, like I love to read these biographies and about these business, and Steve Jobs is one with Apple. He had one main outfit, that black t-shirt and jeans, but it was one less thing he had to think of that day. But a regular routine will do the same thing for you. Don't overthink it. Just fit it in and focus on what's then most important, because the other is taken care of. And then a regular routine, it then has the power to free you up and to increase your productivity over the time. And your mind will be clear with focused boundaries, and you'll get the work done as planned. Again, I have finished so many projects. I've got so many things that I have actually accomplished, but much of those are done because of a regular routine. Laying my tools out the night before, making sure I am ready for that next day, and making sure, planning. Many of you may be listening. Yes, you are planners. You're looking ahead, but look ahead quarterly. I look ahead quarterly, and I work from the end in mind. But putting those regular routine, I don't have to think about my journal, where it is, and journaling every morning as part of my routine. My little devotional that I have, my regular routine, my exercise, those are regular. I don't have to think about those. Those are already programmed in my day. The other things I can fit in as needed. So thank you for joining me. I am going to review a couple things here through a couple of our principles here that I've talked about that you can hopefully recall, and click in on the article. Click in. I usually always put the link to the article as well on the podcast, so you can go to it. Make sure you get onto my emails, newsletters, and you can get those. They come out every single week with the article as well, so right to your inbox. But let's review a couple principles here. That first of all, habits compound over time, and how powerful that is. Realize that is a real powerful point right there with just like the compound interest, the compound habits. I wish there was a calculator for compound habits, just like compound interest, but there's not. But maybe you can make up your own. That would be fun, and make sure you get that little game that I put on there as well. So, and then I'll talk about the exercise, journaling, and deep work, and how important each of those are, and just getting that regularly back into your day. If you've stopped, some of you have maybe never stopped the exercise. That's great. But maybe you need to get back onto that journaling. I encourage you to do a 90-day challenge of just a couple lines. I've talked about this a lot in some of the other shows as well, but just a couple lines a day. Just be regular with it. That's the important thing, to be regular with that, with your journaling. And then with time for deep work, don't be afraid of a blank page. Just put that time aside with no interruptions, and it will pay off. End of the day routine, making sure you're planned for that next day is really important. And how I focus then on that. If you need that little 10-minute timer, actually, I even provide a timer now for some of my courses and for the people that I work with. I don't work with a lot of individual clients. I usually do more speaking, and I'm out with groups, but it is a joy to be able to share some of those principles. So I hope this has really helped you. And make sure you connect with me. You can listen, subscribe, womenathalftime.com. You can always get me on any of my websites. I have a number of them. Goalsforyourlife.com, of course, djworksmusic.com, and I'm a professional speaker, DeborahJohnsonSpeaker.com. But connect with me there. I have a lot of product, again, just a lot of product, but the regular routine helps me market. It helps me get it out there. It helps me to be able to create new product, which I love doing, especially with new books and products that will really encourage and help others in their journey. So I hope you really enjoyed this. Make sure you join me next week. Listen, subscribe. I always have surprises, little surprises for you each week with some of the great subjects. I try to meet these subjects that will really, really help you when you are at the halftime of life. Officially over the age of 40, it comes very fast. And a lot of changes during that time of life. So I appreciate you joining me today. This is such a pleasure. I love doing what I'm doing, and appreciate you listening in. And I will look forward to being with you next time. Bye-bye for now.
Thank you for joining us on Women at Halftime. Visit goalsforyourlife.com or womenathalftime.com for many more resources, downloads, and programs, or to get in touch with me. I'd love it if you leave me a review and tell your friends. So until next time, this is Deborah Johnson, signing off.